Hey everyone, Dancing Rift Reaper here. I hope everyone is having a good morning, evening, afternoon, wherever you might be in the world. Um, this is going to be part 3 of the Prophet Daniel. This could end up even being 4 or 5 parts because the Prophet Daniel is just so detailed and so involved, and there's so much to it, so much information and research that has to be done. Um, but I wanted to try and get this next video up before the weekend. So that is my hopes. Um, I started to record this earlier and then I had an unexpected interruption, so I had to stop the recording, delete it, and now I'm starting again. So so here we go. So maybe I'll get through this one and as I have done before, I'd like to start off with prayer. If you know um, the Our Father prayer, please pray along with me. If you do not, I hope this will help you learn it, and I will start that now. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us of our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For yours is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. And Father, I'd like to take this time to pray for all of my family and friends and neighbors. Ask that you watch over each and every one of them, give them strength and health, and help guide and protect them, deliver them from sickness, disease, and evil. I and I pray for our leadership of our country, for you are above all, and your word says that you raise up kings and you remove kings from their place. So I want to pray for all the leaders of every country in the world that you would guide each and every one of them and give them knowledge and wisdom to make the right decisions for their people, for their country. And I ask that you be with all of the victims of every war. For Father, no one knows better than you the heartaches and hardships that the innocent people go through during times of war. So I ask that you be with each and every one of them. And I ask that you um, touch everyone's, especially, well, everyone, but my friends and my family, touch their bodies, give them health, whatever issues they may be struggling with right now, I ask that you help them with that, whether it be physical health or mental health, emotional health, or even spiritual health. I just ask that you touch each and every one of them. You know what our strengths and our weaknesses are, and you know what our struggles and our sufferings are. And I just ask that you lift each and every one of my family and my friends and give them health, give them strength, and help them to get through any struggles that they might be going through. And Father, I just ask that you watch over my children and that you keep them safe from harm and protect them from evil. And I ask that you be with my sister and my brothers and keep them safe from harm and protect them, watch over them, help them with their struggles. My nieces and nephews, I pray for them as well. And I thank you for all things, Father. I thank you for giving me your strength when I don't have any of my own. And I thank you for giving me wisdom. And I thank you that I have this opportunity to do these videos for anyone that would like to learn about your word. And I want to give you all the glory for all things. To you be the glory forever and ever. In Jesus' mighty name I pray. Amen. So then we're getting into the prophet Daniel. This is part 3. And here we go. As you guys remember, hopefully in the last video we were going over um Daniel's dealing with the king of Babylon, Nebuchadnezzar, um, what Daniel and his companions had faced. They were going to face execution along with the other wise men of Babylon. So they prayed about it and asked God to reveal to them what Nebuchadnezzar's dream was and what it meant. And that is exactly what happened. So we went through that and we went through what the statue, what parts of the statue represented. And we're going to continue on. I know we went through a lot. We went through a lot in the first video, the second video, and now we're going to go ahead and continue into what the prophet Daniel saw in his dreams and visions. So, first I'm going to give you guys, well, I'll just go ahead and get into it here. Okay, now one thing you have to understand about Daniel is that his um the book of Daniel is basically dual, has a lot of dual and typological um patterns in it. And if you do not know what typological means, I did look that up and put it here. It says typology is the study or classification of types that share common characteristics or traits. It can also refer to a theory or doctrine of types, especially in scriptural studies or linguistics. So, um, basically, when you read the Bible and you start to learn more about, um, basically when you're learning different things in the Bible, when you're reading it and you're learning more information, you're reading about the peoples of the past, you're reading about the prophets of the past. Well, or if you're reading about Jesus's teachings, what he said, what he did, his parables, how he taught his disciples and the people in general, um, you begin to realize that a lot of things in the Bible have more than one meaning. Especially when you're reading Jesus's parables or when you're reading about his teachings, you realize that a lot of his parables and his teachings have more than one meaning. For instance, this I'll just give an example. When we say Our Father prayer, um, the part where we say, "Give us this day our daily bread." Well, what is bread? Well, in one aspect, you could say it's food, it's sustenance for our bodies, it's fuel for our bodies. But that's not the only kind of bread. So, um, it could also mean our spiritual bread. So whenever I say the Our Father prayer and I say, "Give us this day our daily bread," not only am I asking God the Father to give me sustenance for my physical body, for food that I eat, but also to give me His Word for my spirit, to feed my spirit. So whenever I'm saying that prayer and I get to that part, I am thinking of both things. So that is kind of what typology and or dual classification basically means. And we're going to see some more of this in Daniel. So when we read chapter 8 here in Daniel, um later on I will be pointing out that there is also another um another meaning behind what we are going to read here. And I will point that out when we get to it. But let's go ahead and get into this. This is Daniel's vision of a ram and a goat. This is Daniel chapter 8. And I will point out something else here. Right here, you're going to see where it says in the 3rd year of King Belshazzar's reign. Later on, when we read some more, we're gonna see where Daniel is no longer under the reign of King Belshazzar, but he's actually serving another king of Babylon. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I would have to go back and look, but if I'm not mistaken, I believe Daniel served under 5 kings. Could have been 4, but I think it may have been 5, because we have um, King Nebuchadnezzar, then we have King Belshazzar. Um, I'm not sure what his son's name was. I'd have to go back and look. But so we have King Nebuchadnezzar, King Belshazzar, then we have King Darius, and then I think there was King Xerxes. So the prophet Daniel literally served 5 Babylonian kings, I believe. So, basically, he spent his life in Babylon. And I believe that he was buried also somewhere around Babylon, or where Babylon would be. So today. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to read this. This is Daniel chapter 8, Daniel's vision of a ram and a goat. In the 3rd year of King Belshazzar's reign, I, Daniel, had a vision after the one that had already appeared to me. In my vision, I saw myself in the citadel of Susa in the province of Elam. In the vision, I was beside the Ulai Canal. I looked up, and there before me was a ram with 2 horns, standing beside the canal, and the horns were long. One of the horns was longer than the other, but grew up later. I watched the ram as it charged toward the west and the north and the south. No animal could stand against it, and none could rescue from its power. It did as it pleased and became great. So, one other thing I wanted to mention, remember how earlier there was the statue and then there was the four beasts, and now we have a ram and a goat. Now, as you recall, the statue, different parts of the statue represented something. The four beasts all represented something, and now we have a ram and a goat that represent something. So this is another example of um, kind of like dual meanings. So sort of. This is also like some symbolic, but um, we'll get into this more and I'll kind of point out what I mean. Now let's learn a little bit more about the environment where the prophet Daniel was. So let's see if we can learn a little bit more about that. So the citadel or Acropolis of Susa was located within the ancient city of Susa, which is modern Shush, in the historical region province of Elam, also called Sus Susiana in southwestern Iran or Iran. Um, so that kind of gives us an idea when we're reading this here and it says the citadel of Susa, that's what was in his vision, in the province of Elam, and he says, I was beside the Ulai Canal. So this is telling us information about that place. The citadel of Susa was located within the ancient city of Susa, modern Shush, in the historical region or province of Elam, also called Susiana in southwestern Iran. So now this is going to tell us about Elam. Ancient Elam was a pre-Iranian civilization or region in what is now the Khuzestan province of Iran, in the plains at the foot of the lower Zagros Mountains. It lay east of the Tigris River, roughly 250 kilometers (160 miles) east, between the Karkay, ancient Choespes, and Des rivers in the Susiana. Now we're going to look at Susa's position. Susa served as the capital of Elam and later a key administrative and winter capital for the Achaemenid Persian Empire. The city sat strategically on trade routes connecting Mesopotamia and the Iranian plateau. Now, its modern location. The ruins are at the archaeological site near Shush, Khuzestan Province, Iran. The modern town of Shush lies adjacent, west-north of the ancient mounds. So that's just to give us an idea of exactly where this is to give us an idea of exactly where its location was and where it is now. It's basically its ruins. So gonna go ahead and continue with that just as soon as I close this door because my dogs are just having a fit for whatever reason, and I really wanted to make this video, and so far I've had like 4 or 5 different interruptions here. So I'm gonna go ahead and try and get more of this, um, get this up for you guys, get it completed and get it up for you guys, and I apologize for the distractions. Um, Now we're going to look at here what it says about the Citadel. So The citadel, often called the Acropolis or Haut or Haut Terrace, was on one of the main artificial mounds. At the site, typically the western or highest mound area. It was fortified. It was a fortified royal administrative zone with palaces, temples, and elite structures, excavated notably by Jacques de Morgan in the late 19th, early 20th century. Key features from archaeological plans include the Acropolis Mound, which was the citadel area. Nearby is the palace of Darius I, which would have been here, Apadana area, Royal City, and other quarters. And then it says it was near the Shaver or Shar River, with the site encompassing multiple mounds. So this is kind of, I guess, the way it would be looking now if you were to look at the ruins. Um, it would kind of look something like this, because all of these little areas here represent the type, um, what is the word I'm looking for? Sorry guys, sometimes I struggle with thinking of things, and that happens occasionally with brain injury. But these little gray areas are like I want to say the height of each area. So this area would probably be the highest. It would be at the top, and then this would be the next level of the land, and then this would be the next level, and so on. Um, so this is kind of just to give everybody a little bit of more information about the area that is mentioned in this book. So, and then it says for visuals, the maps above show Susa and Elam in regional context and the layout of the citadel and palace areas within the mounds. So, and as you can see on this one that's black and white, the Tomb of Daniel is also in that area or would have been in that area. So, so he basically spent his entire life in Babylon. Now, the Ulai Canal is the waterway mentioned in Daniel 8:2 and 8:16, where Daniel receives his vision of the ram and goat while beside the Ulai Canal in the citadel of Susa in the province of Elam. It positioned Daniel's vision right at the heart of the administrative royal center. Archaeological work and site plans show waterways integral to the layout of the mounds, with the Ulai likely bordering or running through parts of the ancient city close to the Acropolis citadel. The vision occurs in a Persian Elamite context, fitting Susa's role as a major Achaemenid winter capital. So now that we have information about the area, about Babylon, and about what it may have kind of looked like, we're going to go ahead and get into Daniel's vision. So, Daniel's vision of a ram and a goat. In the third year of King Belshazzar's reign, I, Daniel, had a vision after the one that had already appeared to me. In my vision, I saw myself in the citadel of Susa in the province of Elam. In the vision, I was beside the Ulai Canal. I looked up, and there before me was a ram with two horns standing beside the canal, and the horns were long. One of the horns was longer than the other, but grew up later. I watched the ram as it charged toward the west and the north and the south. No animal could stand against it, and none could rescue from its power. It did as it pleased and became great. And this is verse 5. As I was thinking about this, suddenly a goat with a prominent horn between its eyes came from the west, crossing the whole earth without touching the ground. It came toward the two-horned ram I had seen standing beside the canal and charged at it in great rage. I saw it attack the ram furiously, striking the ram and shattering its two horns. The ram was powerless to stand against it. The goat knocked it to the ground and trampled on it, and none could rescue the ram from its power. The goat became very great, but at the height of its power the large horn was broken off, and in its place four prominent horns grew up toward the four winds of heaven. So now we're going to look at the first meaning behind this vision. Okay, and then this is verse 9 here, Daniel chapter 8, verse 9. Out of one of them came another horn, which started small, but grew in power to the south and to the east and toward the beautiful land. Now, I don't know if you guys know when it says the beautiful land, it's typically talking about Israel. It grew until it reached the host of the heavens, and it threw some of the starry host down to the earth and trampled on them. It set itself up to be as great as the commander of the army of the Lord. It took away the daily sacrifice from the Lord, and his sanctuary was thrown down. Because of rebellion, the Lord's people and the daily sacrifice were given over to it. It prospered in everything it did, and truth was thrown to the ground. Then I heard a holy one speaking, and another holy one said to him, how long will it take for the vision to be fulfilled, the vision concerning the daily sacrifice, the rebellion that causes desolation, the surrender of the sanctuary, and the trampling underfoot of the Lord's people? He said to me, it will take 2,300 evenings and mornings. Then the sanctuary will be reconsecrated. The 2,300 evenings and mornings. So I wanted to break this down. I wanted for us to understand what is the 2,300 evenings and mornings. So it's often interpreted as 2,300 literal days or prophetic evening morning sacrifices, roughly 3 years and some months. It aligns closely with the period from the temple's desecration in late 167 BC to its cleansing and rededication by Judas Maccabeus, if I can pronounce it right, Maccabeus, December 164 BC, celebrated as Hanukkah. This is a well-documented historical event. In the context of the temple, evenings and mornings refers to the twice daily regular burnt offerings, the Tamid sacrifice, one in the evening and one in the morning, and this is found in Exodus 29:38 through 39 and Numbers 28:3 through 4. The phrase is not necessarily 2,300 literal 24-hour days, but rather 2,300 individual sacrifices or the period during which they are interrupted. This is the most straightforward reading tied to the vision's focus on the sanctuary and the daily sacrifice. So, the 2,300 evenings and mornings is roughly 3 years and some months. Now, this is Daniel chapter 8, verse 9 through 14, and the rest of this is just an explanation of what that 2,300 evenings and mornings means. So now we're going to look at what is the ram and what is the goat and what is the deal with the horns. So we're going to look at that now. The ram is Medo-Persian Empire. It accurately matches the Achaemenid Empire from 550 to 330 BC. The uneven horns reflect Media's initial role, followed by Persia's dominance under Cyrus, Darius, and Xerxes. So, okay, that was another king that I forgot to mention was Cyrus, even though we talked about him early on, way early on. So that would have been, I guess, 6 kings that the prophet Daniel served under. Um, Now, the goat and notable horn is a representation of Greece under Alexander the Great. Alexander the Great is the first king. He conquered the Persian Empire rapidly, starting in 334 BC from the west in a lightning campaign. He died young at age 32 in 323 BC, and his empire was fragmented. So, do you remember when the goat and the ram were fighting? The horns were shattered. So, this is what this represents, is that his empire was fragmented. Now we're going to look at the 4 horns. The Diadochi successors, this was the successors of Alexander the Great, divided the empire into 4 main kingdoms: the Ptolemaic Egypt, the Seleucid Syria Mesopotamia, and Cassander's Macedonia and Greece, and Lysimachus Thrace, Asia Minor. So Alexander the Great's kingdom was divided up into 4 parts, and this is what it was divided up into. That's what the 4 horns represents. Okay. Now we're going to look at the little horn. The little horn that grew up. Remember, we just read about that. The little horn that grew up. Its primary historical fulfillment is Antiochus the Fourth of Epiphanes, the Seleucid king. He ruled in 175 to 164 BC. He invaded South Egypt. He invaded Egypt and the glorious land, Judea and Israel. He desecrated the temple in Jerusalem 167 BC by sacrificing a pig on the altar. So he did what we will read here in a little bit. Was he caused the abomination of desolation. He banned Jewish practices, and he set up a Zeus altar in the temple of Jerusalem. So this is what it's talking about when we read about how he set up the abomination that causes desolation. is he did all this. He sacrificed a pig on the altar in the temple, and he banned Jewish practices, and he set up a Zeus altar. He persecuted Jews severely, stopping daily sacrifices and promoting Hellenistic culture. He exalted himself through blasphemy and self-deification claims. So this is Antiochus the Fourth of Epiphanes. So that is what the little horn represents. However, that is not its only meaning. So have you ever, when you read the Bible, have you ever found in the Bible where it says nothing is new under the sun and what has been done will be done again? So that is the truth. Everything that you see in history that has happened has a tendency to repeat. So so basically what happened here with Antiochus the Fourth, we will see again. So Antiochus is the um I can't think of the correct wording that I would like to use for this. Remember we were talking about the typology and the dual meanings. So Antiochus is basically a precursor um, for what the Antichrist will be like. So Antiochus would be like a precursor. He's like a um, maybe a blueprint, maybe, or a copy or something, except for, they're not the exact same person, but you're kind of getting a little glimpse of what the Antichrist will be like. So Antiochus would have been what Daniel, the prophet Daniel, was seeing. Okay. But there is also one who will come in the latter days that will also do the same exact things, except for he will be worse. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and continue. Um, Now we're going to look at the interpretation of the vision. While I, Daniel, was watching the vision and trying to understand it, there before me stood one who looked like a man. And I heard a man's voice from the Ulai calling, Gabriel, tell this man the meaning of the vision. As he came near the place where I was standing, I was terrified and fell prostrate. Son of man, he said to me, understand that the vision concerns the time of the end. While he was speaking to me, I was in a deep sleep with my face to the ground. Then he touched me and raised me to my feet. This is Daniel chapter 8, verse 19. He said, I am going to tell you what will happen later in the time of wrath, because the vision concerns the appointed time of the end. The two-horned ram that you saw represents the kings of Media and Persia. The shaggy goat is the king of Greece, and the large horn between its eyes is the first king. The four horns that replaced the one that was broken off represent four kingdoms that will emerge from his nation but will not have the same power. In the latter part of their reign, when rebels have become completely wicked, a fierce-looking king, a master of intrigue, will arise. He will become very strong, but not by his own power. He will cause astounding devastation and will succeed in whatever he does. He will destroy those who are mighty, the holy people. He will cause deceit to prosper, and he will consider himself superior. When they feel secure, he will destroy many and take his stand against the Prince of Princes. Yet he will be destroyed, but not by human power. The vision of the evenings and mornings that has been given you is true, but seal up the vision, for it concerns the distant future. I, Daniel, was worn out. I lay exhausted for several days. Then I got up and went about the king's business. I was appalled by the vision, it was beyond understanding. Now, so here's where the dual meaning and typology comes in. So we know that this vision that Daniel saw was concerning, see here, it was concerning the Medo-Persian Empire and then Greece under Alexander the Great, right? And then it goes on and it talks about how, okay, the four horns represented the four empires or the four kingdoms that came from Alexander the Great's empire once it was divided up. And then it talks about the little horn, and that little horn is Antiochus the Fourth of Epiphanes. But here is where the typology and dual meaning comes in. Just as there was an Antiochus the Fourth of Epiphanes that did all of this stuff, there will be another ruler who will basically do the same things as Antiochus, but much worse and on a much bigger scale. Okay? So we're going to look at Antiochus IV. Now look at what Antiochus IV did. Antiochus IV desecrated the Jerusalem temple around December 167 BC, offering a pig on the altar, which is the abomination that causes desolation. The regular daily sacrifices were stopped, the temple was cleansed, and rededicated by Judas Maccabeus on December 14th or 25th, 164 BC, which was the origin of Hanukkah. The time span is approximately 3 years and a few months, roughly 1,150 days if counting pairs of evening and morning, or close to 2,300 individual sacrifices or days in some reckonings. Scholars see a strong historical match here. So, this is the stuff that Antiochus did. Was he did the abomination that causes desolation. He stopped the daily sacrifice, and he uh, basically trampled on the Jewish people. Now, this type of thing will happen again, except for the Antichrist will do this on a much larger scale. And this is where the typology and dual interpretation comes from. So we've seen this once in history, we're going to see it again. Is basically what this is about here. Now, so it says the ultimate scale and time of the end. So let's look at this. It says the vision explicitly concerns the latter time of the indignation and appointed time of the end. Antiochus was a foreshadowing but a more global, ultimate oppressor is expected who will exceed him in power and scope. So this has not happened yet. Antiochus was a foreshadow. Um, Full desolation and restoration. Okay, it says while the temple was cleansed in 164 BC, many see a future abomination in a rebuilt temple or equivalent during the tribulation period, followed by final reconsecration at Christ's return. And then trampling the host and throwing down the truth. Greater end times persecution of God's people and the suppression of truth. The 1000 or the 2300 days. Some view this or related numbers in Daniel as having layered or future applications beyond the Maccabean period. So Daniel not only saw what Antiochus was going to do, but he also sees another figure who does basically the exact same thing but much worse. And that's kind of where we will get in more into that stuff later on. But I wanted to break down this particular vision of Daniel's for everybody so you guys understand it. So this is like one of those dual things. Um, the prophet Daniel was seeing Antiochus, and then he will also see a later figure who does pretty much the same thing, but on a worldwide scale, and he's much worse. So Antiochus was a precursor or a foreshadow of the Antichrist. So hope that helps everybody understand some more about the prophecies. And I will be getting more into the prophet Daniel later on, but I just wanted to get this one done and get it up for you guys. I think my next video, it may, I don't know. I have to think about it and pray about it. My next video may or may not be on specifically on Antiochus. Um, or I could just skip past that for now and finish up all of the prophet Daniel for you guys. But I wanted everybody to understand what this vision that the prophet saw, what it what it represented, and I also wanted you guys to understand that there was more than one aspect to it. So the prophet Daniel was not only seeing Antiochus, but he sees, this Antiochus is like a precursor to the Antichrist. So um, that's all for now, you guys. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope it helped you all learn some stuff. Um, Stay in prayer. Keep your faith, regardless of what's going on around you, and like and subscribe if you like the videos. Leave me comments if you like the videos. Thank you for watching. To all of my subscribers, you guys are a blessing. I appreciate it. Thank you for coming, and I will see you in the next video. God bless. See you later. Bye bye.